everyone! Welcome to Lauren's Scraplot. My name is Lauren Urbonas, and I am very happy to welcome you to Season 5, Episode 5 of the Great North American Stamping Show. Every week, Lisa, Jodie, Julie, and I are going head-to-head to get your votes on our layout recreations. I would like to give a very heartfelt congratulations to Julie, who took the crown last week, and hopefully the rest of us can bring our A game this week and get your votes. So I have put the links for all 3 of the other videos in the description here. And my hope is that you will watch this video tutorial, enjoy it, and then go watch the other ladies. By Sunday, we would love to get your vote on whose project you think captured the recreation task the best. And of course, we always welcome your comments. So you can comment on everybody's video. We love hearing from you. And then give that like button to whoever you think deserves the crown for next week. For this week, for our challenge, we are recreating a layout from this Kintsugi Inspirations page. It is on page 58 of the annual catalog, and we could choose any one of the layouts that you see here to recreate. Now, I decided to go with this one here up in the top right hand corner because I really liked the idea of 2 different designer series papers and a little diagonal look. So I've recreated that using the Celebratory Sips online exclusive suite. I hope you stick around. I have all the measurements for you, and I'm going to show you how to make a really fun fold card. Let me switch cameras. We're gonna zoom in like my kids' Dr. Binox show likes to say, and we will get started on this project. The fun thing is, you guys don't have to own the same bundle that I'm using. So please don't worry if you don't have the Celebratory Sips. Maybe this is going to add it to your wish list, or maybe you're gonna recreate this using something else. So, to create a base, we need to create this diagonal kind of panel in the background first. So I'm going to use Berry Burst, and I have cut this piece at 5.5 by 8.5, and this score mark right in the middle is at 4 1/4. So how do we get this little diagonal feature, you ask? The trimmer is going to be our best friend for this project. So we're going to bring in our Stampin' trimmer, and I may have to zoom you out, but I'm hoping I don't. So what we're going to do is, do you see this score mark here up in the middle? We're going to cut from this score line all the way down to the opposite corner. Now, if you decided to go crazy and go the opposite direction, that's okay too. You could cut from the bottom and go up. Totally fine. I'm going to line up this top right hand score mark and then twist my paper so that basically in my track, I now have both that center score mark, and then down here in the bottom, I have the bottom left piece. We're going to be brave, and we're going to cut from corner to corner now at a diagonal. Slice. This is what it should look like. If it looks different because you've cut the other way, you maybe just have to fold something a little bit differently, and it still should be all right. So don't stress. There's always a way out of this. You just might have to go a little bit backwards from what I'm doing. So that's okay. So while you have your trimmers out, I'm going to get you also to cut your 2 pieces of designer series paper. Now I cut one of them already because I needed it for this card here, but I wanted to show you actually how to get this cut, okay? So 2 identical pieces, either in 2 different patterns, or of course you could use the same piece for both. The Blackberry Bliss is going to break up that color scheme, so it's no problem if you just want the same color, the same pattern. I have cut this piece at 4 inches by 5 1/4, and we're going to cut it from corner to corner once again. So this one has already been done. I cut it from corner to corner. It looks great. I'm happy. So we're going to turn this and cut from the top right-hand side to the bottom left. Of course, this is up to you. This is the moment where you might want to grab your card and decide what pattern you want to have showing. For me, it doesn't really matter because this is a very non-directional piece of paper. But, you know, there is a chance that I might want to flip it around. I might want to have a little bit different something looking. That's no worries at all. So, you know what? Maybe in this case, I'm going to just decide to cut from the top left down to the bottom. But it is not going to matter if you have a non-directional piece of paper because we're using both of these sides. Okay, so I cut from the top left down to the bottom right for this, and we will have one piece now for our card and one piece that could be for a second card, actually. So there's one, and then I've pre-cut this guy, so he's the bottom piece from the other sample. You can keep your trimmer around for a minute here because we have a few other layers to cut out, but I'd like to attach these to the card while we have them, just so they don't get lost on us, because that would be the worst thing in the world. Okay, bringing back our base, we're going to fold that piece down. If you have a bone folder, a nice quick burnish on that line would be ideal. And then before we put any glue anywhere, we're just going to confirm that our piece fits. Because you know what, maybe we made a little mistake and we need to trim something down, but nope, that looks great. We cut it to the right size. I'm going to attach this with a flat adhesive, tape, seal, or glue, whatever works for you. And we're going to put, of course, the piece that you want on the front of the flap onto the top. Then I'm doing a little something different. Usually on the inside you would put a white piece to write on or something, but because we're putting a flap feature that actually has a writing space on it, we don't need to add that, and we're barely seeing any of the inside of this card anyways. So my tip for you in this stage is this spine, this fold, and the bottom part are going to be what people see the most. You are covering most of this middle section. So if there is any incontinuity with your cuts, make sure it's hidden under these cups. Okay, so we're gonna just make sure that this corner is perfectly lined up for what we want. It should barely have a gap, just the tiniest of gaps there. And we're gonna put that into place. I'm doing a horizontal card. You could turn this and do a vertical card. It would look great. In fact, that almost would be something that maybe I should branch out and show you, but it might have to be just a picture that I post on Instagram later, because I have everything cut and prepped for this direction. This green piece, this nice old olive, it's going to rest down in the bottom section. Nothing's going here because we're covering most of that up, and we don't need to waste an extra piece of cardstock on something that nobody's seeing. And the blackberry is a beautiful color, so it's okay. We're just going to leave it. All right. All of that tape off. Once again, we're focusing on this right-hand corner because that's going to be what people see from the front of the card. Everything else is very easy to adjust and kind of cover up if we really needed to. So here's our card at the moment. It's got a fun little feature to it, but we need to add this panel, which opens up and gives you somewhere to write and also gives you kind of that full closure on the card, if you will. If you had any of those little Velcro dots, you might put one of these up in the corner and close the card completely, but I'm just gonna leave it like this. I think it's easy enough to manage on its own. For this panel here in the background, we need another piece of Blackberry Bliss. This one is going to be 3 1/4 by 8 1/2, but once again scoring in the middle at 4 1/4. So that when I fold this in half, it's going to open from the bottom all the way up. Now this is the card that we do need to put a piece of white inside because you're going to want to write on it. So this piece of white is 3 inches by 4 inches. And while you're cutting that, cut a second one as well, because we're actually putting one on the inside and one on the front, but I did emboss the one on the front. So you can cut them at the same time though, 3 inches by 4 inches. And as always, I do put all the measurements in the description, so if I'm going too fast or you missed something, just hit that pause button and go ahead and grab those measurements to follow along. Closing this one up, we are going to add that second piece of 3x4, but oh look, it's got a fun design on it. I used the mini corrugated folder. It's a 3D folder, so you need that nice thick plate in order to add just a tiny bit of detail to this this piece here. So whenever you're doing an embossed piece, you want to make sure to put adhesive all the way around the perimeter, because it does make it a little bit trickier to attach when only half of what you're putting on is actually sticking to the page. Okay, I think I was a little heavy-handed there. Bent my paper a little. There we go. Lift it up. Be gentle. There we go. All right, mini corrugated folder. Adds just a nice subtle detail. Of course, you can use any embossing folder you have or you'd like. I debated using the brick and mortar, but I use that one a lot. All right, here we go. This is going on the front, just with a slight border all the way around. Now, attaching these two together, the easiest thing to do is going to turn this panel over and put adhesive on the back, open this side piece up, and then put this right in the middle of your space. I know it might be a little tricky if you're kind of eyeballing it, but just try to make sure there's an even border all the way around, and that is going to have this perfectly in place. You will want to make sure though that it does open up towards the top of your workspace, kind of towards the top of this diagonal fold. Otherwise, you'll get caught and you won't have that beautiful kind of over the panel look. So I'm just adding some double-sided tape to the back. And it's always fun to do this in front of me, so we'll see how crooked this gets. At least there's lines on the designer paper. All right, I think I'm going to be happy with that. There we are. So at the moment, we open up, we close, oh, there we go. We'll just have to manhandle that one a little bit. She got a little close. That's okay. Grab our bone folder and just re-burnish that line. There. Okay. Here we are. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn. So this panel now opens to the side because we're doing a horizontal card, and we're going to add a little bit of detail. Oh, sorry, I get a little note in there. Now, this is probably the funnest part of the card, and that's just adding your own flair. You can pick whatever bundle you have or whatever bundle you want. I decided to go with Celebratory Sips, also the Cheers and Sips bundle. So as part of the bundle, you do get a stamp set with all of the little features and coordinating dies. These dies do complement some of the designer series paper, and so that's what I did today instead of doing a coloring technique for my card. I went to the Celebratory Sips paper, so you can see I've put all of these just on a panel so you can see them kind of front and back. You'll recognize a few of them. But I went to this one up here because this is a full piece full of cups that you can cut out with the coordinating dies or fussy cutting if they have a little garnish on them. So you can see I've kind of chopped this piece up and cut out the pieces that I wanted to for the cards. But don't worry, there's so many of these pieces right here, 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 all over the place that you can just cut out with the dies too. And they just have adorable ice cubes in there. That's really fun. Okay, so I've pre-cut those, so we are ready to go. We're going to grab ourselves a nice tall cup, whatever one you wanted. I chose the umbrella for the top, and I'm going to choose a little lemonade glass for the next one. How do I do this with the zoom? Okay, that's better. We're going to put dimensionals on the back of this first little cup here. And of course, that cup, you may want to lay everything out just to kind of make sure they all fit, but it's up to you. I'm only putting dimensionals in the center space because if you have an overhang, like an umbrella or something, it's going to come off of the top of the panel and it doesn't stick if you put dimensionals there. Okay, so I'm going to put this just up near the top, somewhere along there. Now, when it comes to the next cup, we're going to want to add some dimension, not just by adding dimensionals, but adding 2 layers of dimensionals. So I'm actually going to grab these edge pieces from my dimensional pack, because the corrugated embossing folder does make it a little tricky to add detail. But I'm putting these dimensionals just to the right hand side of my existing cup. I put 1 layer, and now I'm going to put a second layer, and that's going to add even more lift to the cup that I want to add next. Okay, so 2 dimensionals high, then we add our cup. And this one I kind of have hanging off the edge. That is just fun, and I think it works. Now we're going to add a short cup. So same idea as this standalone cup here. We're also going to do 2 layers high for that one. Of course, they'll just be a little stubby down here. And that gives you a difference of perception on this card. Everything's already popping out at you with the dimensional fold, but it helps. Right. And this one can go just in beside here as well. Now, the next thing that we're going to look for, even before we add this 4th cup, and I know the Kintsugi card only had 3 things, but I'm going to say there was 4 because there was 2 jars, 2 large jars, 1 small jar, and a flower. So we're going to count that as 4 items. We're going to do our sentiment. Now, the sentiments in the set itself are rather tiny, so you'll want to mix and match something with the cheers word, or of course you can always grab a happy birthday, thank you, thinking of you from another set and just bring it in. It's completely up to you, but I really like how all of these are just such a wonderful celebration and kind of encouragement sentiment. So I grabbed myself a scrap piece of paper to do this, and it is 3/4 of an inch wide, but then it's longer than I actually need. This is probably only about 2.5, but I'm going to do a little tearing on the end like they did in their card, and we're going to tuck part of that into the corner as well. So the first thing we're going to do is tear the piece here, and just from this edge we're going to pull up towards ourselves kind of at a little angle, so you've got this diagonal messy look. Then we bring in our stamp set, and I'm going to use the cloud cover ink. Now I know this isn't readily available. It's actually listed on the last chance products because Stampin' Up! Wasn't quite happy with how the color turned out. But if you're willing to roll the dice like I did, I was quite happy with this ink color. And if nothing else, I could always rinse it out and just re-ink it with the re-inker. Okay, sorry, I need to see this. So we're gonna do cheers right there. And then we're going to bring in Let's Celebrate, teeny tiny. Remember with those new ink pads, only a tap, tap, tap. Again, I need to see it. I need to look down on these sets. There we go. So cheers, let's celebrate. I could easily use a Old Olive, Blackberry Bliss, strawberry slush, something else if you don't have this ink. So this was way too long. We are going to cut off just a little bit, but most of this is going to get tucked under cup number 3 right here. See? Don't attach it yet. You can even cut a little bit more. Look at that. All right, this guy needs to get popped up on dimensionals, just 1 layer high, so that it has a little bit of life on the card. Cheers, let's celebrate. There we go. Tucked near the bottom of your card. Now, here's the fun part, is for this last cup, you're not going to look for a full cup. In fact, you're going to look at these edge pieces on your paper. You're going to look for these bases. You're going to look on the other side, which would have toppers, and I cut those out. Look at these. They are perfectly good cups to tuck in behind a tag, even though you're not going to have the whole cup. It doesn't matter. You could tuck any one of these in behind here and nobody would know the difference. So you're not wasting anything. You're in fact using every single piece that you possibly can from this set. So I quite like that one in the back, but here's the other ones that I cut. Oh, that one might be it. Look at that, a Caesar. I don't like Caesars, but, and then see, you can't go wrong. All of those combinations are beautiful. I think I'm gonna do the Caesar. I don't know, just going rogue today. Here we go. 1 layer of dimensionals on the back of that. It will tuck in behind your sentiment and you will have maximized your designer series paper and not had to waste a full cup that you can use on something else. There we go. Now the last thing I added was some embellishments to the card, and they're subtle, and you might be wondering where they're coming from, but I used the hexagon embellishments, if I can find them. Oh, they've run away. Oh no, they're here. There we go. I've used the hexagon embellishments from the Turtley Cute bundle because I kind of thought they looked like ice cubes. So you can see I threw a few of them into the cups to make it look like an extra ice cube. And then of course the blue one I just matched here. So we can do the same here. We can see what might work. Maybe a little lime with the lemon in this card. And we'll do that one. And then I don't know what else needs a ice cube. We'll do one in here. And the blue one on the tag. I like that. And there we go. There are our embellishments on our fancy, bold, diagonal card. I hope you guys had a great time learning all about this card. Please give it a like and follow my page as well so you can see my other videos that I post on Tuesdays called Show Me How It's Done. See you next week for another edition of the Great North American Stamping Show.